Hi, my name is Syed Yelzteen. This video is intended for Computer Hardware Management and Services DDWC 333. In this video, I'm going to show you throughout the inside of the CPU and explain briefly the function of each of the components. Now, I will list down components of what a computer system should have. The first thing is motherboard, power supply, RAM, hard disk, SSD card, graphic card, and input-output devices.
So since my PC is still new, to prevent warranty void, I'll just show you the graphical simulation of the PC. So this is my PC module. We have 4 fans, 3 in front and 1 at the back. So this is where the motherboard situated in the middle of the CPU casing. This box is for the power supply. So we have a power supply here. A power supply is a hardware component of a computer that supplies all other components with power. And here we can find the connection for the power cord to the computer, a fan opening to heat out of the power supply, a switch to power supply on and off. And here we can find the connector. There's a multiple of connector called auxiliary connector, buck connector, Molex connector, and P4 connector.
Now, we will go through the motherboard. As you can see, this is the motherboard. In motherboard,
There are PCI slot, which is a built-in slot on a device that allows for the attachment of various hardware components such as the graphic card and many more. This is the memory slot for RAM. You can see here, this is the memory slot for the RAM. Next one is the back panel connector. So as we can see here, this is the back panel connector that allows you to connect external devices such as your monitor, speakers, keyboard and mouse. There is a CMOS battery here. This is for the configuration of time, date and other information that the computer needs during the startup. Before we get into the processor, there is a processor cooling, which is the fan and the heatsink. The heatsink is a block of metal, usually aluminum or copper, that attach to the top of the processor or other motherboard components. And this is the fan. Heat from the processor is transferred to the heatsink and then blown away by the airflow throughout the computer case. Now let's move on to the processor. So this is the processor. As we can see here, this is the processor. Processor is also called the central processing unit, which is CPU. The processor executes instructions, perform calculations and coordinates input and output operation. Now let's move on to memory. Memory is used to store the information, programs and data that the computer is currently using. It is sometimes called main or primary memory. There are two types. There's ROM and RAM. You can see here, this is a RAM here, 4RAM here. This is the memory. And we have SSD card here. You can take it. This is the SSD card. On the motherboard, there is a lot of heatsink to cool down the CPU. Last but not least is the graphic card. Graphic card is to generate a feed of output image to a display device. We need this to see image on our computer. So this is the graphic card. As you can see, there is HDMI port and display port to connect to the monitor. There is a fan and heatsink